All right, guys. So we're going to do another Illustrator project. And this, we are going to make vector line art from an image. Okay, so we're going to be using a little bit of different tools in Illustrator, but very similar to what we've done before. For this, we're going to be mainly using the pen tool, which I know has given people trouble. So I'll have some kind of practice website for you guys to use, but that's what we're going to use for this project. Let me hide my little meeting controls. Okay. So first things first, you guys need to open Illustrator. It does not matter the document. I'm just using this because I already have a little example here. So I'm just going to make my example artboard, which if you guys didn't learn this yet, this is the artboard. You can make as many artboards as you want, but essentially it's your canvas. So as you can see here, I made a little bunny and I made vector art from this bunny image, and I can probably add more details, but right now this is kind of where I left off, and that's what you guys gonna get. So you need to find an animal image. I already did a bunny, so let me do like a lion. And before I move on, you should be in Essentials Classic Workspace. That's where I am. So just make sure you're in the same kind of workspace I'm using so that you don't get lost. Next, I am going to drag and drop a new picture, which I have this lioness, and she's massive, so I have to shrink her down a little bit, which is just holding down Shift and going to a corner, and I can drag her down. Perfect. So I did a bunny. I'm going to do a lioness this time. So how to start this? Up here, I have the steps. We don't need to do it like that for the lioness. I'll just do it straight up. I'm going to first lower her opacity so that when we're drawing the lines, we can like still see her image. So I can go over to opacity up here, or opacity is also where the transparency panel is right here. Either way is fine. I'll lower the opacity just a little bit, just so you can still see her, but she's not like distracting when you're creating the line art. And then I'm going to go Object, Lock Selection. And that locks this lion image so I can't move it around, which is exactly what I want. Next, I'm going to zoom in, and this is where we're going to use our pen tool. So I want no fill, but I do want a black stroke. So I'm actually going to click this little arrow just to reverse it, but this is what yours should look like. We want no fill and black stroke. Up here for stroke, go ahead and make sure it's 1 point stroke. We want uniform, and we want to be on basic when it says this is like a brush definition. We want it on basic, okay? Once that looks like mine, you're going to grab your pen tool, which is also P, and let's say I start on an eye. An eye is easy. So if you remember with the pen tool, if you click once, that just creates like a kind of straight point. But let's say you come to an area where there's a curve, you have to click, hold down your mouse and drag and release to create a curved anchor point. And so now I'm going to go down and I can drag again, and I have this line. Now to release this line so I can continue on, I'm going to hit A and I'm going to click, and that's just going to release it. It's no longer highlighted. And if I want, A is the shortcut for our direct selection tool, which is the tool we use to adjust points. So I can click back on these points and I can drag their anchor handles and adjust them. Because maybe I made a mistake and like a line was crazy, then I can go back and change it. Okay. When I'm ready, I can click the pen tool again, and I can click somewhere, and I think I'm going to create the bottom part of the eye now. And I'm just going to connect it down here. And again, if I want, I can go back using the direct selection white arrow and kind of adjust these little points, push them in if I want. Awesome. And so what you're going to do is you are going to make the line art of your animal, okay? And you can go as detailed as you want. I want you to be pretty detailed. We're going to spend a week working on this. So I do want it to be something that you're taking effort to do. I will make you do it again if I think you rushed it. So let's take our time with this. Really what this is doing is getting you familiar with the pen tool. So like here, I just made this line. I click A to get this arrow and I click off so it's not highlighted. Then I can click my pen tool again and I can continue on doing this like top part. And I'm just literally creating a line art, same way as if we printed this out and I told you to trace it with a pencil. It's the exact same concept, but we're just doing it a cleaner digital way. Awesome. And something I want to show you guys, I think I'll show you, maybe I'll do this ear up here to show you. So let's say you're making an ear. Boop, 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 boo. I'm making these huge anchor points. Boop, 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 boo. Curve that a bunch. Oh no, like what's happening? I want to come and make the side of her face, but it won't let me do that because when I click here, it's all wonky like this. Again, just use your A tool, click on the anchor point where you want it to like change direction and bring that handlebar in. Awesome. So I'm going to fast forward this part, but I want you guys to choose your animal and to really focus on creating a line art that's concisive. And then I'll show you this part, which is making the line art interesting, essentially. Okay. All right, go for it. This is just the pen tool and the direct selection tool you're using. All right, so I went ahead and did my line art for my lion. This is what I have so far. I obviously didn't bother with the detail on the hair here. That's a lot of detail and I don't want to worry about that. So I just instead gave a little kind of loop that insinuated the inside of her ear. And also like, I really want you to pay attention to details. So there was like these wrinkles that the lion had on her face. So I kind of added in some lines that kind of like insinuated those wrinkles. Also, what I did not do on the rabbit, I did here. I added in some whiskers, which I can make a few whiskers and then I can actually click on one of them, hold down Alt and drag to copy the whiskers. Might as well cheat the system. Why not? So that's an easy way for me to make more whiskers without actually having to use the pen tool, is I can just copy the ones I already have. So I'm going to do that because I would love to save myself work. So yeah, do that. Also, another thing is lions are obviously very hairy, but the hair down here that we see in like her chin, that's a lot for me to do. I don't want to bother with all that. What I could do if I wanted is click on this line and I can go to something called Effect, or Effect tab in the top, and go to Distort and Transform Roughen. If I click that, you'll see it starts to kind of, it does what it says. It starts to roughen her little beard. So if you are someone who really likes the idea of making this as realistic as possible to your animal, you can use like the roughen tool to kind of roughen up some of your lines, because then you kind of get that hair appearance. So yeah, now it kind of looks like this is her little like beard thing going on. So anyway, you have that option. So this is only step, kind of step one. So now what I want us to do is we're going to go unlock all, and we're unlocking the lioness picture. And what we can do is, well, actually, I'll let you decide. You can keep this there if you wanted. I kind of like to remove it sometimes, but I guess it's okay if we keep it there. So I'm going to lock it again, locking the picture. Okay, so now we need to do line width. So if we look at my bunny, you'll see that some of these lines come to a really nice point, really sharp point. And over here, this is when I did just kind of the basic pen tools. And that's fine. This looks good as line art, but line weight is when we choose certain areas of a line to be thicker than others. And in illustration and just in art in general, it creates really, really cool effects. Almost looks like you inked it with a pen or something. So we're going to try to do this with your animal. And what I want you to think about is lines that kind of come to an end, let's make them come to a point, because then it's like they kind of slowly disappear into the fur of the animal. Lines that are towards the bottom or that are underneath where shadows should be, those should be thicker. So I want you to play around and see with what looks good, what looks cool in your little line art. So how do we do that? How do we start making some parts thinner and thicker? We're gonna use the width tool. So width tool, shortcut is W, but this is what it looks like. There we go. And this little picture shows us what it does. Essentially, you can pick different parts of a line and you can change the width, the thickness of it. So what I could do first is these little wrinkles. I might give them a little thickness in the middle, but I know I want their edges to taper off, which means they slowly disappear like that. So I'm making them sharper now. And that just looks way better here than this one. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of move around my illustration and clean it up. So just there, you can see that already looks like an inked drawing. It just looks more professional. So I'm going to go around and kind of clean up the lion. I know down here towards her chin where it goes underneath her mouth, that's a line I can make thicker. So I have to kind of zoom in so I grab it right. But I'm going to make, there we go, this under part of her jaw, I'm going to make that a thicker line because that falls into shadow. So that's what I mean by thinking about where is shadow, because that's where you can get away with having a thicker line. You see this line is thicker because it falls into shadow. And here where her like eyelashes might be, I can make this line thicker because then it gives her like a ooh, like little cat look. But then I want to make those taper off because in general, lines just look better when they're tapered off when we're doing this style. So I can go through and I can make sure all my lines are tapered off when they fall to an end. And I'm just going to clean it up. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this part, but all we're using right now is the width tool. And you're just cleaning these lines, making anything that falls off or ends. Make sure that falls to nothing, that falls to a very thin taper, like a hair or a needle. And think about where shadows will be, okay? All right, I'm gonna skip through this part. Okay, so I went through and I did all the cool weight effects to my lion, and it's looking pretty cool. I mean, if you just look at this was the line art before we added any line weight. It's not bad at all. It's good, but it doesn't have the life that this has. Like this has really cool, nice line weight happening. Oh, I just realized the little pupils a little off center. I went ahead and just, oopsies, filled in the pupils. I just realized my pupil is a little not the right size. That's better. So there's still more to be done, I think, to make it look cleaner. But that just kind of shows you how you're going to go about this, the steps. Something that I noticed is, especially if you're doing furry animals, you know, we added the ruffin down here. Even if you've added a width to lines, you can always click on these lines. So I might select these two and go to Effect, Distort and Transform, Ruffin, and you can still give them some sort of little ruffin. And I would make it really like high detail, but kind of a low size. And that just like even lower than that, like let's see if we can go like 0.5, see if we can get that. Like sometimes clicking relative helping. Yeah, sorry, not relative, absolute. So yeah, I like that a lot. If I just do that, you'll see it just kind of gives the lioness like a little bit of like a wobbly line, which to me looks better because it's supposed to be a furry animal. If you're doing like a seal, then, you know, probably that's not necessary. But for me, as my animal is very furry and has hair, I might just apply, oh, whoopsies. Accidentally did a radial. I did not want that. I might apply a ruffin to all of the hair on her, or at least her main outer frame. So I'm going to go Effect, Distort and Transform, Ruffin. And then, of course, I don't want this because this looks like she just had a really terrible bath or something. I'm gonna put it on absolute for size. Detail, I can just pull that up as far as I want. And for size, I'm gonna bring it down because I want it to be a pretty low size. And actually I might lessen the detail too, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to mess around with it so that it looks interesting and it's roughening up the animal just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Whatever that is, that's perfect. I'm gonna click OK. I like that. Like, I don't know, do I like that? I'll work on it. But the idea is we want it to look a little more natural, and lions do not have perfectly straight, perfect lines. So I got to work on that so that it looks the way I want. But anyway, for this project, I would be using the pen tool, the width tool, our direct selection tool, and I would be messing around with the effect, distort, and transform roughen panel for your lines to add like a little bit of a more natural wave or zigzag to them. Okay, awesome. For this assignment, you will be turning in the original image, whatever animal you used. I want you to turn in a PNG. So you would go File, Export, Export as, and export a version wherever of your line out art before you add the width, and then your final width line art. Okay. Awesome. This assignment will take us a little bit, so make sure you take your time. I'm looking for detail. I'm looking for a beautiful line illustration. Okay. Awesome.